Hello, my name is John, and today on Mono Story we're going to be talking about the Seitei War. That's right, Hokuzono is still cooking, so let's get into it and find out what it's all about. With regards to the Seitei War and how they relate to the Kagurabachi and what happened. And again, I keep saying it, but the Seitei War is one of, if not the biggest moment. Once we get the Seitei War, everything should be answered. Now, before we begin, we have to give credit where credit is due, and part 1 of Kagurabachi was amazing. Let's go through some of the things that I had predicted, which came true. I predicted Samuro would get deleted, he got deleted. I also predicted the reforging of Enten and Cloud Gouger as a theory, and it came true. So now, we are in the driver's seat. Finally, Hokuzono is giving us what we have been asking for the past 100 chapters. The Seitei War is here, ladies and gentlemen. It is beginning now. At the beginning of the Seitei War in Kagurabachi, we have already seen some familiar characters. We have seen our goat, Shiba. He is still there and he's actually helping the Soga clan. We also see Kunishige, who is still at this point friends with Shiba, and we realize that his living conditions are quite disturbing. He lives in a very disgusting way, similar to a garbage dump, but he is still at that point where he hasn't created the enchanted blades. We also have seen a young Subaru, who is one of the users of the enchanted blade, so we haven't seen his abilities yet. And we also see a young Akimura Soga, and his abilities are unrivaled even at this point. However, in this Seitei War arc, we have actually been introduced to a lot of new characters that will hopefully help us in the current point of the story. We of course have been introduced to Chiaki, who is potentially Chihiro's mum and Kunishige's wife, and we see that she is very important in the Soga clan. She actually has an ability where she can somewhat see into the future and therefore make predictions. We also have another character by the name of Mashiro Shuji, and he is working with Shiba, and in addition is also helping the Soga clan. We are also introduced to other Soga clan members, so we have Yoshinojo Soga, and one of the most interesting characters that I know from the Soga clan is Hiroto Soga, and his fight in chapter 118 is absolutely insane. If you have not read that chapter, when you get to it, you will be stunned by this character, Hiroto Soga. Put that in your books because he's going to be a very important character, I hope, in the future. We also now know, thanks to this current information from the Seitei War that has been given to us, that the Soga clan itself was also a very big, important party in Japan, and they were somewhat of the ruling party, and often their decisions would have effects upon Japan itself. However, they did not have complete control of Japan. We also are now just getting more information about the Shokers from this other island, and we also got a few new faces, a few new abilities, and the Datenseki, which is the stone, and how important it is. And we also got some backstory, some lore between this Soga clan and the clan that built the Shokers, known as the Mikaboshi clan, and how the Soga clan actually eliminated this Mikaboshi clan many years ago. The Shokers are now in conversation with the country of Japan, where they want land from Japan, specifically 3 parts of Japan. They are Chiba, Kanagawa, and Tokyo, as well as complete control of all mining of the Datenseki on the island. So with all of this information, we now have to understand that we have information from the future of the story, so the way people perceive the Seitei War. And one of the biggest things we can take is that Akimura Soga is now more understandable, despite saying that it is blood that is affecting whether a person should be alive or deleted. That makes more sense based on his clan being against the Mikaboshi clan. So his whole existence is to eliminate these people from that island. That is why the malediction had occurred. Now, we'll obviously find more information in the future through the information in the Seitei War, but one of the things we have to understand is that most of these people from the Soga clan are not around today. So what happened to them must be within the Seitei War. Were they eliminated? Are they in hiding? Did something happen to them that we are going to find out that affected Akimura Soga to the point where he had to do the malediction? And then on the other point of the spectrum, we have Yura saying it was Kunishige's fault for making the swords that created what is this reality of absolute pain and suffering, as well as the general population actually being against the deletion of the people from the Shokoka Island. So it also brings up another point of why were they against it when we can quite clearly see the Shokokas are coming into Japan trying to take their land and cause harm to the populace or the people. So there is something that will happen hopefully in the Seitei War that will explain to us why people didn't like the deletion of these Shokokas, because right now what we are seeing, they should all have been deleted. The way they're acting, the way they're fighting Shiba and Hiroto and all the other characters on that part of the island in the discussions, that is not a way you want to be holding discussions if you want to obtain land, unless you are objectively trying to create a war where you will not only just take that part of Japan, you want to take all of Japan. And the last big point is what happened during the Seitei War that we got to things such as the Hishaku existing and the Kabunabi existing the way it is today in the main story. How did the Seitei War affect these two parties to become what they are today? Because it's essentially what our main story is now. It isn't the Shokokas versus Japan, it's the Hishaku versus the Kabunabi. And furthermore from that, it is now the Soga clan, specifically Akamura Soga versus the Kabunabi. Because now there is not really anyone that can stop this power of Akamura Soga and his sword, Magatsumi. So now what will the future hold from not only the Seitei War, but after we get the reforging of N10 and Cloud Gouger? And that's going to be where really I think our story will pick up once the Seitei War arc has officially ended. However long that is. I hope it goes for more than 20 chapters, at least 50, because there is a lot that needs to be covered. Things such as, where is Chiaki? What happened to her? What happened to the Soga clan? Where is this whole clan? One of the most powerful clans just disappeared. They don't even exist anymore. Are any of their clan members other than Akamura Soga alive? Are we talking, is Chiaki still alive? Is Hiroto still alive? Is any of the other characters still alive? Well, we have to find out, hopefully, in this Seitei War. Another thing we need to discover is, how is Chihiro born? The war is literally starting in a few weeks. How is Chiaki gonna have a child with Kunishige in 9 months if the war starts in like 8 days? And we haven't actually seen any matrimonial love or anything like that between the two of them, to the point where they are potentially having a child. So how long does this war go for in the story that tells us that they have enough time to have a child? And then what happened to Chiaki? Because Kunishige has never told Chihiro what happened to Chiaki, because when he was sitting on the start of the story in the train, when he was talking to Shiba, he probably would have said something about his mum, and his story would have been like, I remember when my dad told me about my mum, and, you know, now that he's gone, I've only got myself to depend on. But we'd have not heard anything in 100 chapters about Chiaki other than now in the Seitei War. So something big must have happened to her, and also again going back to the Soga clan, to the point where Kunishige couldn't even tell Chihiro. The next big thing we have to see is the Shokokas losing the war. How did they lose? And in doing so, how were the enchanted blades not only made, but their abilities? I mean, we're going to hopefully see some new action from, let's say his name, Ibuki, and how he was in the Seitei War, as well as his connection to his brother Natsuki and how they interacted. And then we're hopefully going to see all 6 EB users going full throttle on these Shokokas, turning them into absolute slush. Because if the 4 strongest members of the elite squad in Japan cannot deal with a lot of these Shokokas, or they're having trouble with them, then imagine the regular folk, or the people who have low level sorcery. So these EBs are above and beyond, so they're going to show us how insane they are in the Seitei War. And then hopefully we're going to get to the end of the arc where we see the malediction occurring on the regular non-fighting individuals of the Shokoka's country, as well as the capturing of Akamura Soga and all of the reality coming to the beginning of the story and everything that's happened in the current time. Interesting character. There's so much more potential for our story in Kagurabachi that I think he is just waiting to be used. I think we're going to see a lot from him during an arc that goes back into the past. So this might be an arc that covers the war and what happened during it, which I'm really excited if they do that, because we get to see the 6 legendary swordsmen in their prime. That will be so cool. But I think that will be the time where we find out what happened to the Master Swordsman. And that is my thoughts on the Seitei War. And again, I'll say it one more time. Hokuzono is cooking. This is some amazing content. I've never seen something so good in a long time like this. And it is something that has every single plot hole being filled. There is no loose ends like the Chainsaw Man ending. And if this keeps up, I think Hokuzono is going to be in the masterclass with titles such as Dragon Ball, Naruto, One Piece, Attack on Titan, any of the big hitters in the anime manga industry or space. It is going to be up there. I'm telling you, this story is a 1 in a million. You don't get a story like this in your lifetime. You just don't. We have existing characters being explained to us in more depth with backstory in a whole entire arc. We're getting new characters that affect our current story. We are also getting the Shokers info, which is what built most of the morals, the laws in the current story. And there is less and less ambiguity in the story. Everything we need to know is being explained to us now through the Seitei War. So when we get to part 2, or we get to the end of the Seitei War, we're now going in with complete vision of the story. Everything past that point will be new, but we are not going half blind thinking, well, what happened in the Seitei War? Why the Shokers did this attack? What were their goals? Why is the Soga clan so weak or devastated? And we will now have all of that information. There'll be very little to no speculation about the past because it will all be explained. So the only thing we'll be thinking about is going forward into the future. And also, before I finish, I just want to say one more thing. We hopefully will get, I'm hoping a panel, I'm hoping a mention, I'm hoping something for the GOAT himself, the man who made the lei white purity style. We're talking Itsuo Shirakai. That guy, if he is even mentioned in this Seitei War, will be unbelievable. If we can even get him in a part where he's teaching Uruha or Samura how to use their sword, that would be insane, awesome moment. But that is my take on the Seitei War. I want to hear what you have to say about the Seitei War. So please, in the comment section below, you tell me. Do you think it's going to be good? Do you think it's bad? What's the problem? Why is it awesome? I want to thank you so much for watching today's video. I understand if you're a Kagurabachi fan and you're subbed to this channel for Kagurabachi content, or you've even been watching my past videos on Kagurabachi and you've come back again. I have to take my time on this because there was a lot of stuff going on and I didn't want to just jump the gun and talk about the Seitei War immediately. I at least wanted to get some idea of what was happening. I wasn't sure if it was a flashback or it was going to be a legitimate arc, but now, judging by the way it's been written, there should be more happening to the point where we get all the information. So hopefully I can make another video after the end of the Seitei War, if not during the Seitei War, if there's more information that I need to talk about. But until then, let's see what happens and let Hokuzono cook. My name is John from Unanswered. If you haven't already liked, subscribed, and pressed the bell button, please do so. And if you want to watch another video, click up above. If not, until next time, I will see you on another Mono Story.